All right, all right, all right. Hello, everybody. Good evening, good morning, good night, whenever you are watching this. I'm so glad you are here with me. I'm so excited about this show. This is episode 11 of the first season of Remixing Relationships. Woo! I am your host, Kendall Anise, the Remix Coach. All right, so let me give my official welcome, and I'm so excited because I have a guest with me today. So, again, welcome to Remixing Relationships, where we dive deep into the art of creating and sustaining healthy connections. Again, I am your host, Kendall Anise, your fave life coach, the Remix Coach. And together we will explore fresh perspectives and strategies to transform your relationships. Whether you're looking to strengthen, heal, or completely remix your connections, you are in the right place. All right, so we dive deep here. So get your swim caps on and get your construction boots because we may be stepping on some toes. I'm excited for you guys to meet my guest. But before we do that, I want to just talk for a moment about settling. And this is what the show is about, settling for the pieces, right? Guy, back in the day, I love me some guys, still love guys. Saw them on tour with New Edition twice last year, one in the Lake City and once in Maryland. And I was singing my jam, "You Can Have a Piece of My Love, waiting for you." But I want to, everybody was jamming. "Baby, you can't have all of me because I'm not totally free." I'm going to read the lyrics right now to "Piece of My Love" by Guy. And that's what we're going to be talking about today, settling in relationships. Now, I once said, and I have been known to say it's on a couple of my websites. I don't want to play the song because I don't own the rights to that. So we're not going to play that. But I like to say I used to enter into real estate. I used to work in the field for many, many years. And I used to say we settle on properties, not life or relationships. And I have said that a million times over, but yet people still settle on relationships. Well, we're not doing that anymore. And of course, as always, we are going to remix how we look at this thing. I met a woman in Florida, and she told me I'd rather have a piece of man than no man at all. I literally heard her say that out of her mouth. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Yes, let's go. Hey, said hi, Nat. I love Natalie. All right, now. But let me read those lyrics and we're going to get in it. Of course, we know "I do love you. You can have a piece of my love." That's the chorus. But I want to read this part. "Baby, you can't have all of me because I'm not totally free. I can't tell. I don't even know why I'm reading the lyrics because I know the song. I can't tell you everything that's going on, baby. There's a few things in my past that should not be explained. I'm asking you, baby, be with me for a little while. You can have," and then he says, "Please, no questions asked." And he's telling her, "You can have a piece of my love and it's waiting for you." He says, "I know this is wrong, but the feeling is so strong. I wish this could last forever, but it wouldn't be the same. Tell me, who would be the blame if we all hurt all over again?" So I'm going to go on and on and on and on. And those were written by Edward Theodore Riley, better known as Teddy Riley, William Gatling, and Gene Griffin, as well as Aaron Hall. So they're talking about a relationship that is messy, that he may be messing with someone else, and the woman is aware of it, and she's going to accept a piece of that love. So why do people feel like they need to accept? And I'm not even going to say women because men as well. Why do people feel that a piece of love from someone is better than none at all? Well, today I have my guest with me, Natalie Alexander. She is a LPC as well as a relationship coach. And we both talk about relationships often on social media. I've interviewed her for Sheen Magazine, as well as this platform right here on my YouTube channel. And I'm excited to talk to her because, like me, we get straight to it. And she's not afraid to give her expertise as well as her opinion. So if you're watching now and you haven't subscribed to my channel yet, what y'all waiting for? Subscribe right now and share this out and tell them we're live. And the way that I do this show, I love to hear from you all. I love to hear your comments and your statements. If you agree, if you disagree, put it all in the chat. Go on over to my YouTube channel and watch. Without further ado, Miss Natalie Alexander, welcoming her to Remixing Relationships. Hey, girl. Hey.
Hi, Kendall. Thank you for having me. I am really excited about this conversation. I'm ready to jump right in and get into this conversation here.
To get into it, and it's going to be good. All right, so let's talk first about the Guy song. Are you familiar with that song?
You can have a piece of my love waiting for you. I do love. I'm not finished. I do love you. So all of that, right?
Come on now.
I'm familiar with that song. Yes.
So the song that we all know and love, and we're singing the song all the time for years since '88. Now, some people are like, well, what the heck is the song? And in 1988, I may have not been born. And somebody is listening like, you know what? That was my jam. I sang it often. I still do.
Right.
So when you heard the lyrics for the first time, were you thinking, well, now what now? Or were you just grooving like?
Oops. I'm not sure what happened. Oh no. Okay.
No, I'm here. I was putting it on you.
Oh, okay.
Technology. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, I think I was today years old when I realized really what he was talking about. Like during your intro, wait a minute. He was actually, like what you explained, talking to somebody else that was outside of his main relationship. Yeah, no, I didn't know. I mean, it's a groove. It's a jam.
Yes.
Like who's thinking about the reality of the lyrics?
Exactly. For those that are just tuning in, this is Natalie. She is Natalie Alexander. She is my guest today on Remixing Relationships. And we're talking about settling for just the pieces of a relationship and why people feel the need to just settle for the pieces in the relationship and not in totality. So we're talking about Guy's song, Piece of My Love. And Natalie said she was today years old when I read the lyrics to Piece of My Love and how he was telling the woman, Aaron Hall, you know what? I'm not totally free. Don't worry your pretty little head about it. We're just going to do what we do. And clearly the woman said, okay. Now somebody's singing in your ear. Would you say, okay? Welcome, everybody.
Listen, to answer the question, to start this off, right? We can go we can start in a couple different directions. A piece of his love, right? So we want to maybe define what does that love actually look like? And is it really love, right? So the background singers of that song, they're saying, I do love you, right? But then the other part of it is answering your question, Kendall, about why would somebody settle for a piece of somebody else's love? And immediately my mind goes straight to a codependent type relationship where I don't need everything. I just need this one little emotional piece to be met. This one little need to be met. You can give me that. You can take me out for dinner every other week, whatever. We can have fun in the bed. And then I just get up. It is what it is. And there's just nothing more invested in it. And let me just say that if there's not much more invested in the interaction, I'm not even going to call it a relationship, then it's not love. It's not love, it's
Yeah.
superficial, it is transactional at best. So,
Yes.
these are artists, these are lyrics, et cetera, et cetera. And if I'm going to go down this rabbit hole just a little bit, I just want to say that it's important for us to not get caught up in the artistry of love, in the creativity of love, or what we're calling getting our needs met and just kind of getting the quick fix and calling it love. We need to be able to start really
Yep.
taking inventory of asking the questions that you're asking. Why am I settling for a piece of somebody else's love, or what he's giving or framing it as love? Because,
Yes.
men know that women want love. Of course, men want love also, but and you said in your introduction also, it can go both ways. But we also know how to frame something so that we can meet the need of the other person and or get our own needs
Right.
met. I hope you follow my line of thinking. I know I
Right.
went off the path, but I came back, and like I said, it begs to be asked why. And a lot of us are maybe hesitant to answer that question, because then it points the finger to me, like, I'm doing this. It's not him, it's not her, it's me. I'm the one that's settling for a piece of that.
Yes. Well, let's get into it. I have my notes here, and we're going to talk about them. I'm going to go through them,
Let's
and we're going
do
to
it.
have a conversation about them. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right. So some men and women accept crumbs, as we know. That's a piece of the love. So, right,
Right.
crumbs is even less than a piece. In a relationship, rather than seeking the whole because of the variety of underlining emotional and psychological factors. And this is what Natalie and I do. So I'm excited to have her here with me to really open this and unpack this a little further, because
Mhm.
remixing relationships is all about promoting healthy relationships and doing things differently. And
Mhm.
anything that I'm a part of, I'm going to make you understand that you have value, you have worth. You can't be going around giving people discounts on who you are. And oftentimes people do that because they don't value or don't know their worth. So let's start with the number one: fear of being alone. For some, the fear of loneliness
Mhm.
can be overwhelming, that they will settle for less than they deserve just to avoid the pain of being by themselves. All right, go for it. Go
who
for
who
it, Natalie.
who I want to know who determines our self-worth. Like, at what point do we
Mhm,
do the hard work
mhm.
of coming to grips with our work? Because it's hard work, right? I'm reading a book called The Myth of Normal by Gabor Mate, Dr. Gabor Mate.
Mm,
He's a
mhm.
Canadian physician who talks about how we have termed a lot of our relationships as normal, when it's really an outcome of a childhood trauma, where we
Yes.
are walking around feeling guilty and ashamed about who we are or how we show up. And so, if we don't know, there's a reason. In other words, there's a reason why we don't know our worth. We're
Mhm.
starting here. I think that's the middle point. But if we are courageous enough to go deeper and find our worth and establish it and nurture it, that means we have to be accountable and then set boundaries. And I think that's what you're talking about. If
Yep.
I tell him, no,
Yep.
I don't want a piece of your love, he's going to walk away and
Yep.
find somebody else who will.
Right. Because unfortunately, there's always someone who will. If
Yes.
you don't, especially when we think about men, right? And
Mhm.
they always say that women and where some women may have a standard, I have been told by men that some women do not have a standard, and I have witnessed people saying that that's men saying that that's what I play on, right? Play with her or play on that. And the fear of being alone is real, especially the older you get. A lot of people feel like they're running out of time, and that they have to accept that they have to be alone. anything, maybe because of their past, or maybe because they know what they've dealt with, or want to say a man and a woman equally deserves a whole piece of that pie. All right, number 2, self-esteem. When someone doesn't feel worthy of a full and healthy relationship, they may accept whatever attention, affection they could get, believing again that they do not deserve more. Let's talk about that, Natalie.
And I think that for a person who has a low self-esteem, it doesn't feel good. So it doesn't promote a well-being, a sense of happiness, a sense of fulfillment and contentment. So any kind of attention, like if it's attention, he's looking at me, he likes my body, it feels good. So there's a reward behind that kind of attention. And we as human beings are motivated by the reward. Even if the reward, the feel good lasts maybe a few hours or a day or a weekend, it still feels good. And a lot of times we can ride on that feel good for a few days, a week or so before we need another dopamine hit, if you will. And so the low self-esteem only becomes something that we are aware of when we've hit our rock bottom, when we've been brokenhearted enough times. Then it's like, okay, why do I keep entertaining it? Oh, it's the low self-esteem. So once again, it still circles back to doing the work of reconnecting to self and getting to know self, and not depending on the reward of the feel good versus the internal feel good.
Yeah, loved it. And this is a big one. As I was doing my notes and of course my research, we have our own views and opinions as well that are of
Mhm,
course filtered in there. But as I'm
mhm,
doing my research and as I'm compiling my list, I said, you know what? Emotional unavailability. Because some people would rather have a peace and they don't want to feel obligated. So both partners may be emotionally unavailable, with one person offering minimal commitment and the other accepting it either because they are not ready for deeper. And I see this all the time when somebody doesn't want to give all of them, right? So a piece of their love is what they may be willing to give, not only accept,
mhm,
but to give that. Because they're like, you know what? I might have just got out of something, or I have been hurt a number of times. I don't want to give anything more. So I'm going to give a piece of my love because I'm actually emotionally unavailable. So if a man meets a woman who is emotionally unavailable as well, right? And they're
mhm.
emotionally unavailable, what do you think about that connection? And do you think that that is a viable reason some people would accept a piece of their love?
I think it's a viable reason, um, if it works for both of them. Excuse me.
Mm-hmm.
If it works for both of them,
Yeah.
hey, it's viable. But guess what? And if it works for both of them, it's only going to work for so far, for so long. After a
Mm-hmm.
while, because of the pleasure aspect of it, because of the reward of it, one of them is going to want more, and the other one is going to be 10 toes
Catch
down
feelings.
on not giving more. For people that are emotionally
100%.
unavailable, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was saying 100% because it always turns out like that, because you may think that you want something less than what you really want, and that's based off of my next thing, past
Mhm.
trauma.
Yep.
So with past trauma, unresolved trauma from past relationships or childhood can condition a person to accept unhealthy dynamics, normalizing minimal effort or affection. And I know your head is about to pop off on that one. Let's talk about that, because that's really the issue. That's really the issue. Why you're going to accept something, it could be because of past trauma. Let's unpack that a bit, Natalie.
Where do I start? Where do I
Exactly.
start? Where do I start? Um, personally, I have been the friend that my friends are saying, Nat, he's not interested. He doesn't want this. Like, Nat, like, let it go. And I'm like, but no, he took me out for dinner. He told me I looked pretty, and all this. Is like, no, like, you deserve more. You deserve better. Like, you're amazing. You're awesome. And, in theory, I'm amazing and awesome.
Yeah.
At the time when I was going through that, I was thinking, yes, I know I am. And
Yeah.
he says I am too. But it's just the moving
Yeah.
beyond that. It's the requiring or the loving myself enough at the time to say, hey, if this is not what we're doing, then I'm done right here. It stops right here, right? But
Yeah.
because of the childhood trauma and not really being accustomed to this kind of attention, it's like, okay, well, he's giving me this kind of attention, even though it's a piece and it stops where he
Mhm.
says it stops. I'm willing for
Mm.
this. And yeah, been there, done that. Been there, done that.
And you
So
and being there, and I'm glad, and thank you for your honesty, because I think that's important. As talking earlier about that, I think it's extremely important. And I have laid my life bare on this show because that's the only way that people can
yeah,
see a connection.
yeah,
And your friends were saying you're worth more. And you
yes.
said because of your childhood trauma, you didn't feel like that. Can you just unpack that a little more? Because I want somebody to
Mm,
understand, because there's somebody that's watching live, or they're going to watch the playback and say, not her. What do you mean? She's so pretty, right?
right. I couldn't see it. I could not see it. I had learned and I had believed that I was unlovable, right? And that's the trauma. The trauma, with whatever my parents were going through, that translated into me not receiving love and attention, the love and attention that a cute little girl like me needed. I just concluded that I was unlovable, that nobody saw me, and that barely anybody cared. Maybe God cared. So when my friends, and I cultivated the woman that I am by the grace of God, and men are attracted, so on and so forth. But um, when my friends were telling me, you're worth more, you're so amazing, you can find somebody different, somebody better, I couldn't see it. It didn't connect to anything. It really had no reference point, and I really had to trust what they were saying, and 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 try to figure it out. Kendall, I lost a friendship over that, right? Because she was really trying to make me believe, like, Nat, like, no, no. And I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. But I love him. It was really a movie scene.
Yeah.
And
But I love him.
yeah,
I
it
loved
was
him.
I loved him, and he did me so right, and he just made love to me, all the things like that I never had, right? And not to say that he was being malicious or anything of that nature. It was that that's what I needed, and
Yeah.
at the time I didn't see anything better, right?
Yeah.
um One of my friends was like, yeah, it's just like saying Milwaukee pizza is the best pizza ever when you've never tasted Chicago pizza, you've never tasted New York pizza, but
Yes.
it's like, okay, but it's
Yeah.
Milwaukee. Well, no,
Yeah.
like, open up your horizons, get to know yourself more, get to know yourself in a deeper way, ask yourself the hard questions, allow yourself to just know you, so that to a greater degree really what you deserve, really what you're worth.
Yeah.
And it is a heck of a journey.
Yeah. And I totally agree. And it is a heck of a journey, when you finally know your worth and your value, and no one can reduce that or discount that. But
Mhm.
oftentimes you're no different than a lot of women or a lot of men who see what they want to see. We've all been there. We've seen what we wanted to see.
True.
And then I always say, you cannot see your picture if you can't see your picture in the frame, if you can't see your picture, excuse me, if you're the picture in the frame. So you're
Right,
looking at it, the frame, right? You can
right,
see the frame, but if you're in the picture, you cannot see the frame, where
right.
someone else is looking directly
Gotcha. Right,
into that picture. And
Yep.
oftentimes people want what they want because of the place that they're in. You ever
Yes.
date somebody or be with somebody and some time passes and you see the person again or you remember the person and you're like, what in the world was I thinking? Because
Yeah.
that was the mind space that you were in. You
Yes.
know, it's so
Yeah.
interesting. Lawrence
Yeah.
says, affection can be a substitute of true affection. Attention, excuse me, can be a substitute for true affection. And what one woman won't do, another woman will. And he said
Attention.
the pizza analogy is powerful. Absolutely. Absolutely. And people don't know if you've never experienced something, if you've never experienced, and I often say this, if you've never experienced a healthy relationship, then you're not going to recognize when you're in an unhealthy relationship. If all you've seen was unhealthy relationships and mirrors of what a relationship looks like, then if you're in a relationship that's unhealthy, that's what you're going to think is the norm of healthy. It's not until you get into a healthy relationship that you realize the past relationships may not have been healthy. If you got your grandmama and them, your aunties, your mama, if you got your friends, your neighbors, and everybody is in that mindset of, well, boys will be boys or men will be men.
Right.
Or they're supposed to, he's being assertive, so he's supposed to talk to you like that. Or you want a man. I've heard women say, well, you want a man who's a little jealous because that's how you know he loves you. So it's okay to do this. You know what I mean? And they're teaching the next generations or the friends next to them, either side, on how to be in unhealthy relationships. That's why it's so important for me to do this show to promote healthy
Absolutely.
relationships.
Absolutely.
Because if you're in a fog, you can't even see your hand. How you gonna see what's going on with him? You can't even see your own hand.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
Absolutely. So even that said, first of all, thank you, Lawrence. And it was actually Lawrence that was my friend that told me about the pizza analogy. So kudos, big ups to Lawrence.
yes,
And
yes.
yeah, he's a
He's
wise
your number
soul.
one fan
Yeah, listen,
on here today.
likewise him. I am his number one fan. For those of you listening out there, for you, Kendall, he'll be an awesome guest on your podcast. You got to get Lawrence on your podcast. Let me tell
Okay.
you. Let me tell you.
Okay. Okay. I
So
love the mutual love. I love it.
yes,
You
he
know,
is.
we
He's
talking about love here. We're trying to make sure it's a healthy love. And I'm not
it's
in y'all business. I'm not saying that's that, but it's support and I love it.
yes,
All right.
yes, yes.
So I also have social pressures, right, on my list.
Mhm. Okay.
Societal expectations to be in a relationship, right? We know can push people to hold on to any semblance of one person who is showing an inkling of love, even if
Hmm.
it's far from fulfilling. This
Hmm.
pressure can lead them to stay in situations just to say they got a man or a woman. And I'm not going to say
Mm.
just a man because there's a lot of men out there settling. I see them. I'll be
Really,
like, I don't like
really.
the way that woman talks to that man. I see it. I watch it. I have clients over the years. I know folks, and sometimes it be the women. And I'm like, he don't know his
Wow.
value just yet. So it's not even just women. I want to make that clear. But the societal pressures, when you get married, you coming to the family wedding, everybody got a date. You don't have a date. You
Right.
accepting this person that might treat you less than perfect. This person that says, you know what, I ain't even ready for a relationship or a commitment, but we can hang out and we can do these things. And that's a resource or a source. And somebody goes with that and they're going along to get along. Going
Hmm.
back to rule to number one, they don't
Hmm.
want to be alone. Let's talk about some of the social pressures to have a mate, to be in a relationship, especially with social media and everybody. Every time you scroll, you see love or relationships. Let's talk
Hmm.
about that for a moment.
Well, Kirk Franklin, there was a real, I think Kirk Franklin was on, I think he was talking to Club Shay. I think they were having the conversation. And Kirk Franklin talked about how in the church,
Mm-hmm.
there's pressure to couple up and to get married. And then
Mm-hmm.
people just get married because they think quote
Mhm.
unquote God's will, and then
Mhm.
months and years later they're divorcing because they weren't ever meant to be in a relationship. And the reason
Mhm.
why I led with that is because that also is my story. The pressures of belonging
Come
to a
on.
community that valued marriage over getting to know the person, over
Yep.
relationships itself. So be married, stay married, but
Yep.
even though your relationship is toxic, even though she's
Woo.
disrespecting you or he's ignoring you, just
Woo.
stay married because that's God's will. No, ma'am. No, sir. It's torture and it's dysfunctional and it's toxic. The pressures that we succumb to just for the sake of belonging, right? And I can go, down another rabbit hole with that, but just to stay on topic today.
I mean, you
uh,
can go where you want. We can
um,
go where you want because I think it's important to really sometimes widen it so people can understand the depth of what we're
yeah,
talking about here. Real
yeah.
life.
Yeah,
Mhm.
thank you,
Mhm.
because this is a conversation. The conversation about belonging is
Mhm.
one that we don't have enough of, and
Mhm.
I think that's where social media comes in, where social media threads and this thing, and all of the aesthetics that we see on social media, so that we can belong. And it's really essentially because we don't have a sense of belonging in our own families, right? We
Mhm.
have daughters that are being children that are being parentified, meaning they have to take care of the emotional need of the parent. They don't get a chance to get to know themselves and foster and nurture a self-esteem, which is what we talked about earlier today. But because we just don't belong, where do I belong? How do I fit? And we tend to succumb to the pressures of society, of social media, because I'll just do whatever it takes to belong,
Mhm.
whatever it takes. I say loosely for some of us here, but essentially it boils down to coupling up with somebody just so that I could feel like I am valued in a community somewhere. And I know that that was my plight when I was a part of a church community. I noticed that people were getting invited to lunch and brunch after church, but I wasn't, because I wasn't coupled up with anybody. And
Mm.
things slightly changed when I got married. We kind of became the hosting place for some time, for some, occasions, but we actually did, get integrated into some social groups when we got married. And of course, now that I'm divorced, single and single,
He's a single and single.
where do I belong?
Right.
Right?
But you know what? That right there, I'm so glad that you brought that up because it is so important. People want to belong. Um, always say a lot clearly, but that everybody wants to be somebody's baby.
Yes. I know I
Everybody
do.
wants to be somebody's
I know
baby.
I do.
Right. You want to belong. You want
Yeah.
someone to
Yeah.
say, she's my woman or girlfriend, or
Absolutely.
he's my man.
Absolutely.
Everybody, even the people who think they don't,
Yeah.
they do. Think about when people get married, couples get married. They're like, oh, I can't wait to say wife. I can't wait to say husband. It's
Mm-hmm.
that belonging to someone other than yourself and God.
Mm-hmm.
It's to
And what
feel cared for. Mhm.
I love what you just said, belonging to somebody other than yourself and to God, but belonging to myself and belonging to God is probably the highest state of belonging ever. Like, I get that we're here on earth and we integrate with other people in communities, and but once I settle into the fact that I belong to me, I have me and I have God in me, cultivating that and
Yeah.
nurturing that awareness and that presence, I will get to a space where that is enough, and I will attract those for whom that is also enough. And I have to say this because I'm pretty sure if Lawrence is still on following, it's the notion of belonging to a friend group, being okay with belonging to him as a friend,
Yeah.
belonging to, being satisfied or being filled and fulfilled by friendships. Because
Yeah.
honestly, friendships do not supersede romantic relationships. They actually are the foundation of any other relationship. It's probably one of the sweetest spots of healthy relationship would
Talk
be
about
in
that. I think
Yeah.
that's huge. And
Yeah.
I think you're definitely onto something right there. And I want you to expound on that, because the
Mhm.
sense of belonging, instead of saying I would rather have a piece of man than no man at all. And I
Mhm.
still can't believe I watched a woman say that out of her mouth. You hear people joke about that, but
Mhm.
when you actually watch a person in real time, in real life, say that, and this man was treating her horribly, horribly.
Mhm.
And because of where she lived in a rural area,
Mhm.
there weren't down south dirt roads, not a lot of options,
Mhm.
feeling less than her worth,
Mhm.
feeling like the world is not out there because I'm in this box of a place.
Mhm.
Somebody comes along, shows you some attention, don't treat you too bad, but don't treat you good either. You're
Right.
going to accept it because you feel less than. When that's because you want a sense of belonging, but the friends, like you said,
Mhm.
family members,
Mhm.
that relationship with God can give you that sense of belonging. But so many people want that romantic sense of
Mhm.
belonging.
Mhm. And let me just say that there a lot of us don't have the quality of friends like a friend like Lawrence or a friend like Lanice. A lot of us don't have that quality of friendship. A lot of us function on superficial, on what do you have on the transaction of
Talk about
friendships,
it.
because a lot of us don't like to be held accountable. That's the other part. Now, this lady that said what she said, she told you what it was. I commend her for her courage to be honest and honest with
Yep.
herself about whatever it was at the time. Maybe that will be the extent of her life, maybe it won't, but at least at that moment she was honest enough and aware with herself enough to state it
Mhm.
as it was. It is what it is. I'd rather have a piece of a man than no man at all, is what she said. uh Personally, I want a whole man, thank you very
Mhm.
much. I want him to me. I want, me for him and him for me.
A whole
um
one.
so if you're out there, here I am. um
Yeah. Yeah.
it's all connected, is what I'm trying to say here. And I think that's what we're also saying: the
Mhm.
belonging, the self-esteem, the self-worth, the friendships, the community, God first and foremost,
Yeah.
then us, right? um
Yeah.
but I have to repeat this: to get to that space, it's
And I,
gonna take work. It takes work, internal work. It takes asking the difficult questions, and it also takes honest accountability. Honest accountability.
mhm. Honest accountability. And a
Mhm.
lot of people are not ready to give honest accountability because they don't even know what that looks like and what it is. They're conditioned to just live how they're living because people don't recognize it's someone else could see. In my book, excuse me, your unhealed is showing, meaning we on the
Mm.
outside can see a person and see their unhealed showing, but that person cannot see. That person is saying, this is my personality, this is how I am, take it or leave it, this is what I do, this is me, right? When in actuality, it's not, it's the unhealed showing. So if you have
Yes.
two people coming together and they're willing to have a piece of whatever, it's because of those broken pieces, and that's why they're accepting pieces of love. It's because of
Mhm.
broken pieces inside of them. I want to talk about lack of boundaries and awareness. Some individuals may not recognize, I'm going to go into more of what we were talking about, the difference between a healthy relationship and, as you talking about, a toxic relationship, accepting crumbs because they don't know what a balanced partnership look like. You and I both talked about that earlier as far as you being in a toxic
Mhm.
relationship. I know I have been in a toxic relationship. And
Mhm.
it's so interesting because if you've had, and there's a lot of people out there who can verify this, if you've had certain type of relationships, When it comes to healthy, you don't even know what it looks like. When you were in a toxic relationship, Natalie, but when you were inside that frame, you didn't know that was toxic until you start to see certain things and you have the awakening. Let's talk about that a little bit, the difference between a healthy relationship and a toxic relationship.
Well, anything that is healthy, it provides the space to just exist. We talk about a healthy relationship versus toxicity, something that is that does not. I mean, I'm trying to frame it in a way with a metaphor. A toxic environment is an environment where oxygen does not exist,
Yep.
where breath and life does not exist, right? So cancer cannot exist where there are oxygenated cells, where there's breath, where there's life. It just doesn't exist, and then it just continues. It's toxic. So in a relationship that is toxic, one or both of the individuals in the relationship are not free or safe to be who they are in their most truest, most authentic, vulnerable self way. Not safe. So people are stifling, people are pretending, people are hiding, and people are resenting, and people are codepending, et cetera, all variations and forms of toxicity, and not being the fullness of who they really are and sharing their feelings or their true self.
Mm-hmm.
Versus healthy, there's space for it, right? There's space, there's acceptance for it, the breath of it, the life of it, of who that
Mm-hmm.
person is, and the understanding and the awareness and the acceptance that that's just who he is, that's just
Mm-hmm.
how he is, and I'm willing to, I can, in my authentic self, I can deal with that, for lack of a better word. I'm maybe it's annoying, maybe it's frustrating at times. We talk about it, we discuss it,
Mm-hmm.
and we roll through it. It's just a part of our relationship that will always be, this part, but that's not the sum total of the relationship. Does that
Right.
make sense?
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. And I want to go further just for people who, to be clear, if you
Mm-hmm.
are taking notes, get your pens and your pads out, your phones out, whatever you need. We're going to talk
Mm-hmm.
about toxic relationships and we're going to go through that. And then I want to show the example of healthy relationships. Now, some of you might say, well, back to what I was talking about earlier about I don't want a full commitment. It's easy to take a piece. He's going to take a piece. I'm going to take a piece. And you just have two wounded individuals that are afraid to give their all. So you look at that as healthy because nobody is being taken advantage of, right? And that's
Mm-hmm.
still unhealthy. So I'm going to go through my list of toxic relationship traits.
Okay.
Disrespect, one or both partners disregard each other's feelings, boundaries, or opinions. There are name calling, belittling, we know, gaslighting, manipulative behavior. That's toxic. Poor communication often hostile,
Mm-hmm.
manipulative, as I talked about. Partners withholding information, lying, those type of things. Passive aggressive behavior, of course, lack of trust. There's
Mm-hmm.
a constant sense of doubt, jealousy, suspicion with one or both partners. Control or manipulation, that falls in line with a couple of those that I talked about. One partner may try to dominate or control the other. Boundary violations. Hello. You tell someone what your boundaries are. You've been to therapy. You've seen a life coach, a counselor. You've done your work. You're in a relationship and you're telling them now you have a voice. These are my boundaries. These are things I like. These are things that I don't like. Please don't do that. Please don't say that. That's triggering. That's harmful. And the person just violates every boundary, every conversation you had.
Mm-hmm.
Personal boundaries are often ignored, with one person not respecting the other ones, whether it's space internally or externally. Unresolved conflict. Instead of a healthy conflict resolution system,
Mm-hmm.
arguments often lead to blaming, yelling, cussing, fighting, hitting, wherever. Emotional and physical harm is what I want to round that out with. There may be emotional abuse, such as manipulation, gaslighting. I've experienced all of
Mm-hmm.
those, where one partner uses violence or threatens to control the other person. So,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think about that list of toxic traits in a relationship? Somebody right now is like, oh, snap. Wait a minute. I just woke up. I think I'm in an unhealthy relationship. I think I'm in a toxic
Relationship.
relationship.
Yeah, if that's you, if listener, observer out there in the audience, if that's you, then be kind to yourself. Reach out to your support system. Reach out to your friendships. Relationship that you've invested in that you're now realizing is toxic can be hard to leave, because ultimately some part of the relationship is meeting a need and you are getting a reward from it. But at some point, being able to recognize that the rewards don't outweigh the toxicity, and that you have love and a safe place somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So to reach out, if you're in Alabama or in Georgia, Natalie Alexander, LPC. Of course, you've got Kendall Lanise. If you're in the DC area, to coach you out of this and into a place where of safety and of self love and of God love and Kendall Lanise love. So
Amen.
that's the encouragement there. But that
Yeah.
list pretty much summed it up.
Yes, absolutely. And this is what this podcast is about, just recognizing and understanding. It's not about negativity as far as like, girl or guy, you in this unhealthy relationship, like what are you
Right.
doing? It's toxic, can't you see? It's to
Right.
make you aware, because I believe that everybody should have the experience of a healthy relationship, and
Mm-hmm.
that experience starts with you. And I just have to say it starts with God, and you have to be able to heal. But you cannot heal if you're ignoring the traits and maybe the patterns that have been in maybe some of your relationships,
Mm-hmm.
because the only person that you can work on, the only person that you can fix per se is yourself. No
Mm-hmm.
one else has anything to do with it, whether they did this or that. It's about
Right.
how do you want to get out of it, and how do you want to heal from that. And I just want to tell somebody out there, you're worth it. You're worth a healthy relationship. You don't have to
Mm-hmm.
have a piece of anybody's love. You can have the whole darn pie. Natalie was talking about pie, pizza earlier. You can have the whole pizza pie. No matter where you get from, where you say Milwaukee, Chicago, New York.
New York.
New York pizza, man, that pizza falls off the plate. I'm gonna take New York pizza for 2,000, Alex. I'm gonna take that.
Me too. Me too.
No to Milwaukee. I've never had Milwaukee's pizza, but I've had Chicago, and I'm gonna
Okay.
still pick New
New
York.
York.
But New York, right? But it's so important, and that's oftentimes when we're talking about relationships. You may see it online. You may see us talking about it, or whoever out there is talking about relationships and toxic relationships. It is a red flag. But oftentimes people don't talk about the green flags, and we're going to talk about both of them. Let's talk about some beautiful highlights of a healthy relationship. You ready? You ready, Natalie, for the
Yes.
healthy?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
All right. I'm just going to go down the list. I'm going to pause, and then you can interject anywhere you want to.
Okay.
Mutual respect. Let's start there. If a toxic relationship is disrespectful on so many levels, both parties value each other's feelings, their opinions, and boundaries. There's a sense of equality and respect in the relationship. That's healthy. Somebody might not even know how to handle that. They might be
Yeah.
wanting to stir up some trouble because it's going too well. You ever see somebody like that? They got to stir the
Yes.
pot.
Yes, they create the chaos and bring back the toxicity
Mhm.
because it's more comfortable for them
It's
than
familiar.
actually feeling safe
Mhm.
in being respected and
Mhm.
being heard and being seen. It can be more uncomfortable, on the onset when you get into that kind of healthy setting. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of like you're accustomed to wearing tight shoes all the time, and then you finally find a pair that actually fit. It's like, wait a minute, you're
Mhm.
looking at your feet, you don't know if you're even wearing shoes, it just feels so great. Something, let
Mhm.
me just go back to the ones that fit. I'm
Mhm.
accustomed, we become accustomed to the old way of things. But yeah,
The
that's
old
that.
way of thinking. Open communication, it has to be healthy and reflect and refreshing. There is
Mhm,
an honest and transparency when it comes to healthy communication, y'all. Both partners, both
mhm,
feeling
mhm,
safe to express their thoughts and emotion without fear of judgment and backlash. That's healthy, open communication. And of course,
Yes.
trust. But before, and I'll mention these two and then go for it, Natalie. Trust
Sure.
is foundational with both partners feeling secure in the relationship. There's no constant fear of betrayal or suspicion, because if you've been in a relationship where you can't trust someone, then that cycles over in your head and you're not able to trust, and that's not healthy. But when
Mhm.
you can freely trust in your relationship and you can truly communicate in a healthy space,
Mhm.
that's promoting a healthy relationship. What you
Mhm.
thinking over there, Natalie?
I am. I talk about the trust and the open communication, more so the open communication in my book. Stay tuned. It'll be released before the end of this year, called The Magic of Relationship Resilience, Empowering Intimate Communication and Wellness. I point straight to, listening skills, communicating what you intend to say instead of, speaking through the filter of your emotions. When we
Mhm.
speak through the filter of our emotions, we do sometimes create an unsafe space, as opposed
Mhm.
to just saying how you really feel, right? I feel frustrated. I feel unheard, so that the person be like, okay, because they love you, that's not their intention. I want you to feel heard. Okay, let me just be quiet. All right, let me write down what I want to say so I'm not interrupting you. So, we're not going to know where the relationship is if we don't communicate. We don't know where we
Mhm.
stand in this healthy relationship if we
Mhm.
don't communicate. Use your words. But
Yeah.
here's the other thing: communication is not only relegated to speaking verbally, communication can be done non-verbally. Communication is also sexually, in a committed relationship, right? The
Mhm.
best safe type of communication. So we want to open up the scope of it and just be with the intention of honest and clear and transparent presence and being and communicating.
I love it. I love it. All right. Other traits of a healthy relationship, a green light, right? Everybody talks about, hey, the red flags. Let's talk about the green flags.
Mm-hmm.
Support and encouragement. That's part of a healthy relationship. Both individuals encourage each other's growth and
Mm-hmm.
personal goals, offering emotional support without trying to control or manipulate.
Mm-hmm.
Healthy boundaries. We
Mm-hmm.
talked about the ones that stepping all over your boundaries. They don't care. They ain't been in no therapy. They ain't coaching. They not trying to get better. They trying to rain on your parade. Let's talk about the healthy boundaries. Each person respects the other person's personal space, individuality, and needs,
Mm-hmm.
allowing both to maintain their sense of self
Mm-hmm.
outside the relationship. All right,
Mm-hmm.
let's talk about those two. We talked about support and encouragement and healthy boundaries.
Do you know when that happens, Kendall? When an individual in a relationship can support her partner, and when he can set a boundary and respect the boundary. Do you know when that happens?
When does that happen?
It happens when we've done it for ourselves.
Boom. That's
Right.
right.
Yeah.
Because if you're
When
not
we can,
respecting your own boundaries, how can you demand somebody to respect them when you don't, when you betray yourself often?
that part, when you betray yourself often,
That self
how are
betrayal
you
is
going to know
real.
what your boundary is? How do you know? How are you going to know what it feels like? The strength and the courage and the power to assert the boundary, to communicate it and stand firm with it? Because yes, Esther Perel says she's a international she's a therapist. I want to say social worker, I think,
Mhm.
from Europe. She says boundaries are made to be tested. So we set boundaries with the expectation and the hopes that people will respect them, but they're meant to
Mhm.
be tested. And I
Mhm.
have to say this about boundaries also. They're not set out of your emotions. We don't set a boundary because I'm feeling some type of way and you upset me, you can't cross this far. No. You set
Mhm.
boundaries to keep yourself safe, to protect the relationship,
Yeah.
right? And so there's an understanding of the why this particular boundary and what happens on the other side of that boundary being
Mhm.
crossed. if you cross this boundary, this is what's going to happen. And being able
That's
to
good.
know and to be committed to the consequence of said boundary crossed. We have to have more conversations about that. But man, when you can find somebody that is that secure and that confident in his or her own boundaries and respects them, you have found a gem.
Yes. And I hope nobody out there is saying, "Well, what are boundaries?" Because you got to come back. Watch one of the old Shine with Kendall and Denise podcasts. I break
Yes.
boundaries
Yes.
down. But
Good.
if you're asking yourself about boundaries, and I'm glad that this is a place that you're asking, because everybody should have boundaries. You probably have boundaries and you're not calling them boundaries. And a
Mm.
lot of people do have boundaries. So don't think that you don't have boundaries out there, or you've never laid. If you say, I don't like this, I don't like when you do this, those are boundaries. And you may
Mhm.
not call them boundaries, but that's what it is. It makes me feel uncomfortable when you do this, or I don't like when you say this. Those are boundaries, or I'm not willing to do this, or this is my breaking point here, or whatever it is. Those are boundaries that you're setting. I have two
Mhm.
more healthy relationship green flags. Conflict resolution. Disagreements are going to happen in a relationship, even in a healthy relationship, y'all. But
Mhm.
how is it handled? Is it handled respectfully? Conflict is seen as a way to better understand each other, and partners work together to find a solution. Because remember, y'all are on the same team. These are not
Mhm.
opposing teams. Rather than trying to win or hurt the other person.
Mhm.
So you are conflict, you're resolving conflict, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Without trying to hurt someone.
Yeah.
My last one on here is emotional and physical safety. Emotional safety is huge for me.
Mhm.
It is a
Mhm.
requirement for me.
Mhm.
I have to
Mhm.
feel safe to be able to talk, to be able to share. To, it
Mhm.
goes back to trust. It's huge for me, and you discover what your boundaries are and what's important to you when you are in relationships. And you see, you may not know how to name it. Until you can name it, you can express those feelings. But I know for a fact that emotional safety is a big one for me, and that's why it's on my list. There's a sense of safety in a relationship where neither partner feels threatened emotionally or physically. Each person feels valued and cared for. So, what do you think about those last two, conflict resolution and emotional and physical safety?
I often tell my couples that have difficulty communicating, when they come back to me and I ask, how are things going? They'll say, well, we got into an argument, et cetera, et cetera. And I tell them that it's not about, the well-being of your relationship is not contingent on the arguments, the amount of arguments that you get into. More so it's contingent on your ability to resolve it, like what you were
Bounce
saying,
back.
Kendall. Like
Yep.
your ability to work through it, to come to a consensus about whatever the issue is. And as you said, with the mindset that we're a team, like your partner is not the problem is the problem, and you work together with the problem.
Wait, pause right there. I want you to repeat that for the people in the back. The
Okay.
partner is not the problem. Repeat that for the people in the
Yeah.
back. I think that's
your
key.
partner your partner is not the problem is the problem. So it's
Mhm.
important to not make the person the issue. Even if you guys don't agree, it's a disagreement, and the disagreement is just an event. It's not the sum total of the relationship. It's not the sum total of the future of your relationship. You just disagreed on something. You both can agree to disagree. You guys can both table the situation and come back to it after you all have processed it a little bit more, gotten some guidance from your trusted community members, and come back, because ultimately the goal is to move forward in the relationship. The goal is to strengthen your team bonds and to nurture the healthy relationship that Kendall and I have been talking about. So yeah, there's that.
There's that. All right. So as we conclude, and this was good. I'm gonna definitely have Natalie back. We'll have some other things cooking, and of course, you're gonna come back when your book comes out. A
Yes,
hundred
thank you.
percent. I'm
Yes.
excited. We're going to talk about that at the in the end. So I
Yes.
just want everybody to really know their worth. We're talking about settling for the pieces, right? The crumbs. As I
Mhm.
stated earlier, some of the lyrics in one of our favorite songs, a classic R&B
Yeah.
jam by Guy. You can have a
Yeah.
piece of my love.
Yeah.
I went, like I said, I went to see them live
Hmm.
last year twice because
Hmm.
if you know me, I love New Edition.
Right. Right.
And I'm like, you can have a piece of my love. And I'm in there, look at Natalie, and I'm in there jamming like, you can't have all of me because I'm not told. And I'm listening to the
Not
lyrics, and it's
totally
so
free. Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
Right. And we're singing these songs, and sometimes you feel like it's cute to maybe have a piece of the love because you're hurting and you don't want to be tied down, because vulnerability is something that a lot of people will not willingly walk into.
Right.
So if you have a piece of someone, you don't have to give, because I know there are women out there and men out there that deliberately give a piece of themselves in a
Mm-hmm.
relationship
Mm-hmm.
and not give the whole person because of boundaries or not feeling safe or not having emotional safety or physical safety or whatever the reason.
Right.
You find out those things in your healing. That's why it's so important to intentionally heal,
Right.
that you don't even know, right?
Right.
Do people even know why often in your clients, when you see your clients, and then I'm gonna go through this list about knowing your worth and we're out of here. But when you see your clients and you have a client that is unaware of the reasoning and why the behavior is this way or feeling that way, when you tell them and when you sit down and talk to them, what is that revelation like? And how freeing is it for them when you really hone in on what's going on with that person?
I think for a lot of my clients, it's a relief. It's a relief that, they're not broken or they're not crazy. This is just what it is. And, in the work that I do, we talk about where it all came from, where it all
Mhm,
started, right? So we spend a little bit of time there, in the parenting or in the childhood relationships. And then we leave that there and we start to cultivate something for the here and now, where you're connecting to yourself, the things that you want for your life, and looking forward to the goals that you have created for yourself. So a lot of times it's an emotional release. It's a relief. Like, oh my gosh, like I'm not tied to this way of thinking. I always going to be this way. I'm not always going to have a piece of his love. I can
mhm,
actually have full love. Yeah, I'm thinking about a client in particular where we
mhm,
walked the journey. It was like a 2.5 year journey, and where she was ready. And then like within months, she met somebody that she's now
mhm.
engaged to. So
Come on
there's,
now.
yeah, man, it's it's
Come on
it's a
now.
good process, but it's hard work. I'm not even gonna try
Yes.
to put it. It's work.
Doing that self-work ain't for the weak.
It's not.
It ain't for the
But
weak.
that's the purpose
Worth
of
it.
Kendall's coaching, my therapy, the
That's right.
community. Lauren Souffrant. There are people that are supportive and here for you to walk this journey, so you're not having to do it by yourself.
100%. And I'm gonna take it back to the old school because I'm old school. Drop
Yeah,
that zero and get yourself a
right. I like that. That's hilarious.
Remember,
That's
people used
hilarious.
to say that. Drop that zero and get you a hero. But first, you got to be your own hero or
Yes.
shiro. How about
Yes.
that?
That's
Because
it.
if you're your own hero or shiro, you'll be able to recognize another. All right. So it's all about, I want to end with this because it's all about remixing the relationship. So, how are we going to remix this thing? All right.
Mm,
As a remix coach, that's important for me. You can remix anything at any age, stage, or phase. It's
mhm,
never too late to remix your life. So it doesn't matter if you had a string of pieces of love. We're going to string all of those together, and then you're going to have a whole love because you are worth it. Whether you're a man out there or one out there, I say that because I know some men out there have settled just to have a woman.
mm,
And so it's not just the women. A lot of women I know do it as well. All right,
mhm,
so know your worth. I'm going to repeat some of these things because it's so important. Know your worth, self-love and confidence. Recognize your value as an individual. Work on building self-love and confidence so you don't seek validation or self-worth from anyone out there.
mhm,
Acknowledge your values, your strengths, and what makes you a good partner.
Mm-hmm.
because it's not always about I'm looking for a partner who's this way or that way. How can you better yourself to for yourself and to be a better partner? That's how you can know your worth. Identify what you deserve. Clearly define what you need, what you expect from a relationship, such as respect, as we talked about, emotional support, love, whatever it is. Understanding your non negotiables will help you avoid settling for less. I'm going to let you chime in because I see you, and then we're going to keep going. What you think about that?
You hit it on the head, Kendall. I just say boom, 100%. What Kendall has said. You period. Yeah, the young people say period.
Period,
Yeah,
Pooh.
my daughter would cringe. My teenager would cringe at that right there. But
Oh, so
hey,
then you gotta keep saying it because it's good to make them cringe. That's what a parent is about. You gotta embarrass your kids. I'm like, what's the point? Right?
that's
And
right.
of course, I'm gonna repeat it. Set healthy boundaries
Agrees.
early. You
Mhm.
dating somebody, they like, I can see you every 6 months, even though you live down the street. Establish your boundaries early. When people know they can't play in your face and play with you, and
Mhm.
you say, listen, that's not going to work for me. Define your acceptable
Mhm.
behaviors from
Mhm.
somebody and what's unacceptable to you. Communicate that. Like,
Yes.
yeah, that's not going to work for me, because if people give you some foolishness and nonsense and you go with it, then they're going to
Mhm.
keep stringing you along, giving you a
Yeah.
piece.
Yeah.
Enforce your boundaries, y'all.
Yeah.
Communicate your needs clearly. It's not just about the other person's needs. If they want to, I can't get tied down yet, I'm dealing with this, dealing with that, but I like you a lot, but I'm gonna string you along a little bit, I'm gonna give you these pieces of my love.
Mhm.
No, be honest and direct. Communicate your needs clearly, because your needs matter too. Don't be afraid to express your emotional and physical and intellectual needs.
Yes.
I
Yes.
always say, if you, because this is going to be a whole thing, I always say, because there's some things that I always say. If you
Okay.
can swap spit, you can swap information.
I love
People
it.
don't want to talk. They want to kiss and get right to it, but they can't even have serious
Conversation.
conversations.
It's true.
Speak
It's true.
up if something doesn't feel right. If your expectations are unclear, speak up. Number four, don't settle for less. We talked about red flags. Pay attention to the red flags. Be now. This is. I know you want to chime in on this one. Be
Mhm.
willing. It takes a strong person to walk away. Sometimes
Yes.
standing up for your worth means that, somebody might leave, and that's okay.
Yes.
If they walk out of your life, let them. Ain't that what Tyler Perry said? It can be it can be tough, but it's important not to stay in situations where you're not valued.
Right.
If somebody, in Maya Angelou is big on that. If somebody shows you who you are, who they are,
Mhm.
believe it. And
Mhm.
I joke with Tyler Perry, but Maya Angelou was the one that says, somebody wants to walk out of your life,
Mhm.
let them,
Mhm.
right? And
Mhm.
because if you don't value yourself, then no one else is going to value. If you don't hold yourself to a certain standard and say, that's not going to be okay. And that
Mhm.
takes strengthening who you are. As
Mhm.
Natalie was talking about, it takes strengthening your self-esteem. Let's pause for that for a moment and just give
Mhm.
3 tips how someone can strengthen their self-esteem. And I'm going to finish the list and we're out. Because
Me too.
I can say all of this, right? But if
Mhm.
they're not able to strengthen their self-esteem, they're going to
Mhm.
fall back into the pieces of love, thinking
Mhm.
that that's what they deserve.
Mhm. So it's difficult to have an esteem or of something that you're not aware. So you seek to become more self-aware. You accept your faults. So accepting your faults and your strengths. A lot of times people focus self-esteem on strengths, but really being able to know yourself, right? So it's knowing yourself, accepting what you know about yourself, and thirdly, working on the things that you can work on and accepting the things that you cannot, and just
Mhm.
being yourself, just being you. You will
Mhm.
find you will attract your tribe that will affirm and validate your self-esteem.
Yeah.
And and you'll grow from it. Being willing to grow also, right? You asked for three, I'll give you
Yeah.
four. Being willing to grow. A lot of times, well, this is just the way I am. This is just the way everybody has always treated me. Well, you've cut yourself short at that moment where you say, that's just the way I am. Be willing to grow. Be willing to know more about yourself and about your world. Be curious. That's five. And explore. That's six. So just it's the intention of living. It's the bliss of being, and just
I
be
love it.
courageous. That's seven. So
I love it. But you know what? The more the merrier because it's all for the greater good. And I love
yes.
it. Thank you. I love guests like you.
Thank you.
So this is a big one. We talked about not settling for less. On my list is maintain a strong sense of self.
Mhm.
Cultivate your own hobbies, your interests, your friendships outside of a relationship.
Mhm.
Emotional independence also allows you to avoid becoming reliant on your partner for their
Mhm.
happiness, right?
Mhm. Yes.
Happiness is an inside job. Someone can add to your happiness, but they cannot make you happy.
Right.
Seek growth and self improvement. Continue to grow as a person through self reflection and self care. When you focus on your own growth, you
Mhm. Mhm.
naturally seek partners who compliment and respect you rather than hold you back. So
Right.
when you focus on your own growth, someone is going to come along who's going to complement that. Um, Surround yourself with positive examples, healthy role models. Learn from people who are in healthy, mutually supportive relationships, whether through friends or family, public figure, wherever you can get it from, to
Right.
know your value, your worth. And then, like Natalie said, seek support. If you're struggling to maintain your worth in a relationship, seek guidance from a coach, such as
Yes.
myself, a
Yes.
therapist, such as herself, or a support group that can provide clarity and encouragement. So you
Right.
don't feel like you have to accept a piece of somebody's love because you are worth more. We got to stop giving discounts to who
You're right.
you are. There's
Yeah.
no discounts.
No discount. Full price.
Full price because you are worth it. What are
Thank
your
you.
final words for this show? And I think that this was an amazing episode, Natalie. And I just want to say thank you. I appreciate you. This is Natalie Alexander, LPC, and relationship coach. What are the final words you want to give someone out there who is accepting, as the lady was saying? I'd rather have a piece of man than no man at all. You can have a piece of my love, and someone is actually saying, yes, I'll take the piece because I'm not worth the whole person.
I would say to you, to her, allow yourself to be challenged. This could be where you are, and that's fine. There's no shade, there's no shame, there's no condemnation, there's no judgment. This is where you are, but my hope and my prayer is that you would venture forward, move forward into curiosity. Somebody, Kendall is telling you that you're worth more. Question that, right? Prove her right, and ask yourself the questions: why am I worth more? Who could I possibly attract? And do the work, because the work is worth doing. We are creatures of reward, and there is a reward on the other side of that work. So I challenge you to be worth the love that you're seeking, to let that zero go, and go for one that really can treat you the way you deserve to be treated. I am Natalie Alexander, a licensed professional counselor and relationship coach. I have a book coming out called The Relationship is Magic of Relationship Resilience, Intimate Communication and Wellness, coming soon. Stay tuned. Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Kendall. It was an
You are
honor.
welcome. Tell the people how they can connect with you on social media and beyond.
Natalie at Natalie Alexander LPC. That's the Instagram. Natalie Alexander Facebook. The Butterfly Institute. TikTok. YouTube is Natalie Alexander LPC. And you can reach out to me by email at thehealinggracecounseling@gmail.com. My website is www.healinggraceatl.com.
Yes, 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 yes. I love it. So while you're over here watching me on YouTube, after you subscribe to this channel, go on over to Natalie's channel and subscribe. She has a great Instagram page, and I was actually on her show. She's been on my show,
Yes,
and we love having conversations like this because both of us want to see people happy,
absolutely.
whole, and healed. I
Absolutely.
thank you once again, Natalie, for joining or me on remixing relationships. You did a phenomenal job, as I knew you would.
Thank you. See you next time.
Yes. Thank you for joining me today as we've explored new ways to remix and strengthen our relationships. Remember, healthy connections are within your reach, and together we can create the love and life you deserve. Again, I am Candace, your fave life coach, the remix coach, and I am ending with the power to transform is in your hands. Until next time, take care, keep growing, and remember, it's never too late to remix your life. You can remix this relationship as well. It doesn't matter if you've had unhealthy relationship after unhealthy relationship. Hopefully this show can inspire you and allow you to recognize what green lights are and what healthy relationships look like. Again, find someone who you know has a healthy relationship and ask them questions. See a therapist, find out where you're going wrong and what you need to heal so you can produce a healthy relationship. Because sometimes it's not the other person, sometimes it's you. That, but we all can grow and heal together. Until next time, God bless y'all. Peace. Thank you, Natalie.
I
Bye, everybody. Let's see if we have one more comment. Let's see, and then we're going to be out. Walking away is the peace. Yes. I love it. Everybody, thank you so much for commenting live. And I see all your comments, even if I didn't get to them. Thank you so much. If you feel this episode will bless someone else, please share this out on your social media platforms, emails, and text. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so now. All right, take care. God bless.